Close your eyes, relax, and drift into history. Welcome to another quiet journey through the past. Tonight, we travel far back into the ancient world, to a place where the first pale light of morning touched the waters of the Nile River long before most of recorded history was written down. The air is still cool. The stars remain overhead. The villages are silent except for the distant sound of water moving gently along the riverbank. Tonight, we explore what it felt like to be young without choice or voice. Not a king. Not a noble. Not a priest living inside a grand temple. Just young. Young in a world where almost every path had already been chosen before you took your first steps. As the darkness slowly gives way to dawn, imagine standing outside a small mud-brick home. The walls hold the coolness of the night. A woven reed mat rests on the packed earth floor inside. Nearby, a clay oven waits quietly from yesterday's baking. The village is beginning to wake. A rooster calls. Somewhere, a donkey shifts its weight. A woman steps outside carrying a clay jar. The day is beginning once again. For most young people in ancient Egypt, life followed a path that seemed as steady and predictable as the river itself. The seasons changed. The floodwaters came and went. Crops were planted. Crops were harvested. Families worked. Children grew. And often, children grew into exactly what their parents already were. A fisherman raised a fisherman. A farmer raised a farmer. A potter raised a potter. A servant raised another servant. The future often arrived long before childhood had ended. A young boy lying on a reed mat before sunrise might already know what the rest of his life would look like. Not because he had chosen it. Not because he had dreamed it. Because everyone around him expected it. The same fields. The same tools. The same dusty roads. The same river. The same routines. Outside, the sky slowly brightens into soft shades of gold and pale blue. The Nile glimmers quietly. A young boy rises from sleep. His body feels heavy. Yesterday had been a long day. Tomorrow will be much the same. He washes his face with cool water. He eats a simple meal. Perhaps bread. Perhaps onions. Perhaps a few dates if the family has enough. The food is plain but familiar. The smell of fresh bread drifts through the village air. Nearby, another child is waking as well. A young girl rubs sleep from her eyes. She can already hear her mother moving around the home. Grinding grain. Preparing food. Organizing the tasks that will fill the day. Soon the girl will help. Not because someone asked whether she wanted to. Because helping is simply what happens. Work arrives early in ancient Egypt. Children often became useful members of the household at a young age. Small tasks appeared first. Carrying water. Gathering reeds. Watching younger brothers and sisters. Helping prepare meals. Fetching tools. Sweeping floors. The tasks seem simple. Yet together they slowly shape the rhythm of a life. Day after day. Season after season. Year after year. The sun rises higher. Warmth begins spreading across the land. Dust stirs beneath sandals. Voices grow louder. The village fully awakens. For a young person, there is little privacy here. Families live close together. Homes are small. Neighbors know one another. Daily life unfolds in open spaces where everyone can see. People know your parents. People know your grandparents. People know where you belong. And often they know what your future will be. The idea of becoming something entirely different may not even seem possible. The world feels smaller than it does today. Much smaller. The horizon stretches across the desert, yet opportunities do not stretch nearly so far. Most people rarely travel great distances. Many spend their entire lives within familiar regions along the Nile. The villages become entire worlds. The river becomes a highway of life. The fields become a permanent companion. As morning continues, farmers move toward their land. Young boys walk alongside fathers and older brothers. The soil beneath their feet is dark and rich from the river's yearly floods. Birds move through the reeds. Insects hum softly in the growing heat. Work begins. A young boy watches carefully. Not because he attends a formal school. His lessons happen here. Every day. Every season. Every harvest. He learns where to plant. When to water. How to recognize healthy crops. How to repair simple tools. Knowledge passes from one generation to another like a quiet stream. Little by little. No ceremony marks these lessons. No grand announcements. The learning simply happens. Sometimes without anyone even noticing. A father bends down and demonstrates a task. A son repeats it. Again. And again. And eventually the task becomes second nature. By adulthood, years of observation have become skill. Meanwhile, in another part of the village, young girls learn equally important lessons. Inside homes. Near ovens. Beside grinding stones. Along narrow paths leading to water. The work is endless. Grain must be crushed. Bread must be prepared. Clothing must be repaired. Children must be cared for. Water must be carried. Food must be stored. The daily needs of a household never truly end. A young girl watches her mother closely. The lessons are practical. How much grain is needed. How to keep food dry. How to manage supplies through difficult seasons. How to care for family members when illness arrives. These skills are rarely written down. They live in memory. Passed quietly from person to person. The sun climbs higher. The air grows warmer. Shadows shorten. Workers begin feeling the first hints of the day's heat. Ancient Egypt could be beautiful. The river shimmered. Palm trees swayed. The landscape glowed beneath clear skies. Yet beauty did not remove hardship. Work remained constant. Bodies became tired. Feet became sore. Shoulders carried heavy loads. Young people felt these realities early. There was little separation between childhood and adulthood. Responsibility arrived gradually but steadily. A child who could help was expected to help. A child who could carry something often carried it. A child who could work often worked. Not cruelly. Simply practically. Families depended upon every member. Survival often depended upon cooperation. The heat continues building. Dust hangs softly in the air. The smell of earth mixes with the scent of river water. Far away, workers repair a canal. Closer to the village, fishermen prepare their boats. A young boy walks with his father toward the shore. The Nile stretches before them. Calm. Ancient. Endlessly moving. Fishing is not glamorous work. The nets are heavy. The boats require maintenance. The sun reflects brightly from the water. Hours pass slowly. Yet fishing feeds families. The boy learns how to untangle ropes. How to repair torn nets. How to read subtle changes in the water. How to remain patient. Patience is perhaps one of the first lessons many young people learn. Life moves slowly here. Crops need time. Boats need time. Bread needs time to bake. The river follows its own schedule. No one can rush it. And so children grow accustomed to waiting. Waiting for floods. Waiting for harvests. Waiting for adulthood. Waiting for lives that seem already outlined before them. As afternoon approaches, the heat becomes heavier. Workers pause briefly. Some seek shade beneath trees. Others rest beside walls. The ground radiates warmth. Sweat gathers on foreheads. The world seems quieter now. Even birds appear less active. A young laborer sits against a mud brick wall. He is perhaps 14 years old. Perhaps 15. Old enough to work hard. Young enough to still dream. He watches older workers nearby. Their hands are rough. Their faces weathered. Their movements practiced. He can almost see his own future reflected in them. The same tools. The same roads. The same work. The realization arrives slowly. Not as sadness. Not as anger. Simply as understanding. This is how life works. At least, this is how life appears to work. Many young people never had the freedom to ask what they wanted from life. The question itself may have seemed strange. People ask different questions. Will the harvest be good? Will there be enough food? Will the family remain healthy? Will the river flood properly? Security often mattered more than personal choice. Stability mattered more than individual ambition. The afternoon drifts onward. The sunlight turns golden. Shadows begin stretching once again. The worst heat slowly fades. People return to work. Fields fill with movement. Workshops come alive. The sounds of tools echo softly. In one workshop, a young apprentice shapes clay. His fingers are clumsy at first. The clay collapses. The shape bends. Mistakes happen. An older potter watches patiently. The lessons continue. Not through long speeches. Through repetition. The apprentice tries again. And again. And eventually the clay begins to obey. Years later, he may become highly skilled. But today he remains young. Learning. Observing. Practicing. The workshop smells of wet earth and dust. Sunlight enters through a small opening. Particles drip through the air. Outside, village life continues. People walk along narrow roads. Children carry baskets. Merchants transport goods. Donkeys move slowly beneath loads. The day remains busy. Yet beneath all this activity lies something quiet. An acceptance of routine. A rhythm repeated countless times before. The same rhythm that shaped generations. As evening approaches, the air becomes gentler. The light softens. The Nile glows beneath the lowering sun. Workers finally begin returning home. Feet move slowly. Bodies feel tired. Hands ache. The day's labor settles heavily into muscles. Yet there is comfort in returning. Comfort in familiar places. Comfort in familiar people. Smoke rises from cooking fires. The smell of bread fills the air once more. Voices drift between homes. Children gather near families. The village slowly transforms from workplace to resting place. A young girl helps prepare the evening meal. The work continues even now. Tasks remain. Dishes must be cleaned. Water must be stored. Animals must be checked. Yet the pace feels softer, more relaxed. The hardest part of the day is ending. Darkness gradually spreads across the landscape. The sky turns deep blue. Stars appear one by one. The river reflects faint points of light. Inside small homes, families gather together. Stories may be shared. News may be exchanged. Simple conversations fill the evening hours. For young people, these moments matter. They listen. They observe. They learn how adults speak. How adults think. How adults understand the world. Many lessons arrive around evening fires. Not formal lessons. Life lessons. Practical wisdom. Family history. Old memories. Ancient customs. The knowledge settles quietly into young minds. Night deepens. The village grows still. A distant dog barks. Water laps gently against the shore. Most people prepare for sleep. There are no bright electric lights. No glowing screens. Only darkness. Stars. Moonlight. And silence. A young boy lies on a reed mat. His body feels exhausted. Tomorrow will bring more work. More learning. More responsibilities. The future remains largely unwritten in detail, yet strangely predetermined in shape. He knows where he belongs. He knows what others expect. He knows the path stretching ahead. Perhaps he wonders about distant places. Perhaps he wonders about different lives. Perhaps he dreams. But morning will come again. And with it, another day shaped by family, duty, and tradition. Outside, the Nile continues its quiet journey through the darkness. The water moves slowly beneath the moon. The desert rests. The fields rest. The villages rest. And countless young people, living without much choice or voice, drift into sleep beneath the same ancient sky, preparing to wake once more into the familiar rhythm of a world that has already decided so much for them. The night remains quiet for a little while longer. Moonlight rests softly upon the Nile. The river moves with the same steady patience it has shown for thousands of years. Along its banks, villages sleep beneath a blanket of darkness. Mudbrick walls hold the last traces of warmth gathered during the day. Palm leaves rustle gently whenever a faint breeze passes through. Inside one small home, a young boy turns slightly on his reed mat. His sleep is not deep. The floor beneath him is hard. The room is shared with family members. Somewhere nearby, a baby stirs. A relative coughs softly in the darkness. Privacy is rare. Silence is never complete. Life is lived close together. People work together, eat together, and sleep together. Even dreams seem to belong to the household rather than the individual. Outside, the stars continue their slow journey overhead. Ancient Egyptians often looked upward and saw meaning in the sky. The heavens felt alive with order and purpose. The rising and setting of stars helped mark the passage of seasons. Time itself seemed connected to the natural world. For a young person, the sky could feel enormous. Yet daily life often felt very small. The world beyond the village existed, certainly. Great cities stood along the river. Temples rose from the earth. Royal palaces housed powerful people. Merchants traveled far from home. Yet many young people would never see most of these places. Their lives unfolded within familiar boundaries. A cluster of homes. Nearby fields. A section of river. A handful of dusty roads. The horizon looked wide. Life itself often did not. As the darkest hours begin to fade, the first signs of morning slowly return. A cool breeze drifts across the fields. The stars lose a little brightness. Birds begin stirring among reeds near the water. The village remains mostly asleep. But not for long. Ancient life follows the sun. When daylight arrives, work arrives with it. Soon a woman wakes. She sits quietly for a moment. The day has not fully begun, yet her responsibilities already fill her thoughts. Water must be collected. Food must be prepared. Children must be guided through another day. She rises carefully so as not to wake everyone at once. A small lamp flickers nearby. Its gentle light touches the rough walls of the room. A young girl opens her eyes. She has learned to wake early. Not because she enjoys it. Because the household depends upon it. Childhood often blends gradually into responsibility. There is no clear line. No single moment when one stage ends and another begins. Instead, duties accumulate little by little. 1 year a child carries small bundles. The next year larger ones. 1 year a child watches. The next year the child helps. Before long, helping becomes expected. The sky brightens. The village awakens. Doors open. Footsteps appear on narrow paths. Voices drift through the cool morning air. Another day begins. For some young people, this day will be spent in the fields. For others, beside workshops. For others, within homes or marketplaces. The details differ. The rhythm remains familiar. A young farmer walks beside his father toward land that has belonged to the family for generations. The earth beneath his sandals feels cool for now. That will change soon. By midday, the ground will radiate heat. The air will shimmer. The sun will press heavily upon backs and shoulders. But morning offers a brief gift. A few hours of gentleness. The fields stretch quietly before them. Young plants sway lightly in the breeze. Birds move across the sky. The river glimmers nearby. Work begins almost immediately. There is little ceremony. No speeches. No announcements. Tasks simply wait to be done. The young farmer bends to his work. He knows what comes next because he has seen it countless times before. The movements feel familiar. His hands remember. His eyes recognize every detail of the land. Knowledge has entered his body through repetition. Through observation. Through years of practice. This is how many young people learned. Not through books. Not through classrooms. But through participation. Through doing. Through watching older generations perform the same actions over and over. The lessons arrive quietly. Almost invisibly. And because of this, traditions remain strong. Ways of living pass steadily from parent to child. From grandparent to grandchild. Like water flowing through connected channels. The morning sun climbs higher. Warmth spreads across the landscape. The village grows busier. A donkey carries baskets through narrow streets. Merchants arrange goods for sale. Workers transport supplies. The smells of bread and grain drift through the air. Life feels active yet unhurried. In one corner of the village, a young apprentice joins a group of craftsmen. The workshop is already warm. Dust hangs in shafts of sunlight. Tools rest against walls. Materials wait to be shaped. The apprentice's hands are not yet skilled. Mistakes still happen. Sometimes often. But mistakes are part of learning. An older craftsman offers correction. A small adjustment here. A different technique there. The apprentice listens carefully. Respect for elders runs deeply through society. Older people possess knowledge. Knowledge brings value. And value brings authority. Young people rarely question this arrangement. It feels natural. The world appears structured, ordered, established long before their birth. There is comfort in that certainty. Yet there can also be limits. A young person may possess talents beyond the path assigned to them. A sharp mind, creative ideas, unexpected abilities. But opportunities to explore those gifts are often few. The needs of the family come first. The needs of survival come first. Practical concerns outweigh personal dreams. Most people simply do what is necessary. As the day advances, the heat grows stronger. Workers wipe sweat from their brows. The sun dominates the sky. Shade becomes precious. The village slows slightly beneath the weight of afternoon. A young girl carries water jars from the river. The clay containers feel heavy. She adjusts her grip. Continues walking. Adjusts again. Continues walking. This task has become part of daily life. The path feels familiar beneath her feet. She knows every bend, every tree, every patch of uneven ground. The river waits at the end of the journey. Always there. Always moving. Water collection takes time. So much time. Modern conveniences do not exist. Every drop carried home requires effort, strength, patience, endurance. The young girl kneels near the riverbank. The water reflects sunlight. Gentle ripples spread outward. Nearby, other villagers perform the same task. The same routine. The same movements. Day after day. Year after year. Entire lives can be built from small repeated actions. Actions so common they almost disappear into the background. Yet together they shape existence. Back in the village, the afternoon continues. Heat settles over rooftops. The smell of baked earth rises into the air. Animals seek shelter. People move more slowly. Conversations become quieter. Even the wind seems tired. For young laborers, afternoons can feel endless. The sun appears motionless overhead. Time stretches. Tasks remain unfinished. Bodies grow weary. Yet work continues. It must. Food does not appear on its own. Homes do not repair themselves. Fields do not care for themselves. Life depends upon effort. This reality becomes clear very early. Many young people understand responsibility long before they fully understand freedom. Responsibility is visible, immediate, necessary. Freedom is harder to define, especially in a world where expectations are inherited. A son often belongs to his father's profession. A daughter often belongs to her mother's responsibilities. The future arrives wearing familiar clothing. The roads ahead have already been walked by countless relatives. And so many young people spend little time imagining alternatives. Not because they lack imagination. Because alternatives seem distant. Almost invisible. As afternoon slowly softens toward evening, shadows begin returning. The air cools slightly. Workers feel relief. The harshest hours are ending. Birds become active again. The village regains some energy. A fisherman returns from the river. His boat rocks gently against the shore. Nearby, a young helper unloads nets. The ropes leave marks on his hands. The work has been long. but there is satisfaction in completion. The day's efforts have produced something useful. Something tangible. Food for families. Income for households. Another small contribution to collective survival. Across ancient Egypt, countless young people contribute in similar ways. Their names are mostly lost now. History remembers kings. History remembers monuments. History remembers great victories and famous rulers. Yet ordinary young people filled the spaces between those events. They baked bread. They repaired sandals. They carried water. They planted crops. They swept floors. They cared for younger siblings. They lived lives that rarely entered official records. Still, their labor helped sustain an entire civilization. Without them, the grand temples would never have functioned. The cities would never have thrived. The river trade would never have flourished. Ordinary lives formed the foundation beneath everything else. The evening sky turns gold. Then orange. Then deeper shades of red. The Nile reflects the changing colors. The water seems almost peaceful enough to stop time itself. Families begin gathering once more. Cooking fires glow. Meals are prepared. Voices drip through the cooling air. The smell of fresh bread spreads across the village. A young boy sits near his family. His muscles ache pleasantly after a long day. He listens as adults speak. Perhaps they discuss harvests. Perhaps they discuss weather. Perhaps they discuss relatives in another village. Children often listen more than they speak. Adults make decisions. Adults hold authority. Adults guide the household. Young people observe, wait, learn, and eventually grow into those roles themselves. Night falls slowly. Darkness settles over the fields. Stars return above the river. The village quiets. One by one, the sounds of work disappear. Tools are stored away. Animals rest. Conversations fade. The day finally releases its hold. A young girl lies upon a woven mat. The room is warm but comfortable. Nearby, family members prepare for sleep. The flickering light of a lamp dances softly against the wall. Her eyes grow heavy. Tomorrow will look much like today. And the day after that. And the day after that. The rhythm of life continues steadily. Predictably. Like the flow of the Nile itself. Yet beneath those routines, something quiet lives inside many young hearts. Curiosity. Wonder. Questions that may never be spoken aloud. What lies beyond the next village? What lies beyond the desert? What lies beyond the life already waiting for me? Such thoughts often arrive at night. When work is finished. When the stars appear. When silence finally settles across the ancient world. Outside, the river continues moving through darkness. Soft water touches the shore. Reeds sway gently in the night breeze. The moon rises higher. And across countless villages along the Nile, young people drift slowly into sleep once more, carrying unspoken dreams through a world where duty speaks loudly, and choice often whispers very softly. The moon hangs quietly above the Nile. Its pale reflection trembles upon the water, broken only by the gentle movement of the current. Along the riverbanks, the villages rest beneath a sky crowded with stars. The day's labor has ended. The ovens have cooled. The last conversations have faded into silence. For a few precious hours, the ancient world seems still. A cool breeze drifts through narrow lanes between mud-brick homes. Palm fronds rustle softly. Somewhere in the darkness, a night bird calls. Then silence returns. Inside one small house, a young boy sleeps beside his brothers. Their reed mats lie close together on the floor. The room is simple. A few clay jars stand against one wall. A basket rests near the doorway. Everything inside has a purpose. Nothing is wasted. Life leaves little room for excess. The boy's hands bear small marks from work completed earlier that day. Tiny scratches. Rough patches of skin. Signs of labor that arrived long before adulthood. Yet tonight, while he sleeps, he is simply young. The responsibilities waiting for him tomorrow have not disappeared. They rest quietly beyond the darkness, ready to return with the sunrise. For now, the village belongs to dreams. Hours pass. The stars slowly move overhead. The Nile continues its endless journey. And eventually, the eastern horizon begins to lighten. Not quickly. Ancient mornings arrive with patience. The darkness softens little by little. The stars fade. The air remains cool. The world seems suspended between night and day. Then the first workers begin to wake. The rhythm starts again. It always does. A woman rises before sunrise. She moves carefully through the dim room. A clay lamp casts a warm glow across the floor. Nearby, a young girl opens her eyes. For a moment she remains still. The day has not fully begun. There is a brief feeling of quiet before responsibility returns. Perhaps this is one of the smallest freedoms available to her. Those few moments between sleep and duty. Those few moments when nobody is asking anything. When the world has not yet started making demands. Then footsteps begin. Voices appear outside. The village awakens. The day unfolds. The girl joins her mother. Grain waits to be ground. The work requires strength. A grinding stone is simple, yet the task can take hours. Back and forth. Back and forth. The sound becomes part of the morning. A familiar rhythm heard throughout countless homes. The smell of grain fills the air. Dust gathers lightly upon hands and clothing. The girl has watched this work since early childhood. Now she performs it herself. Years pass this way. A task first observed becomes a task repeated. A task repeated becomes a skill. A skill becomes an expectation. The transformation happens so gradually that it is almost invisible. Meanwhile, the village roads begin filling with movement. Sandals brush against packed earth. Donkeys carry loads. Workers head toward fields and workshops. The sun rises higher. Golden light spreads across the Nile. Fishing boats appear on the water. Their reflections shimmer softly. Near the riverbank, a young fisherman helps prepare nets. The ropes feel rough against his fingers. His father checks the boat. The morning breeze carries the smell of water and reeds. The river is calm today. That is a blessing. Not every day is easy. Ancient life often depends upon forces beyond human control. The river, the weather, the harvest, illness. Good fortune and hardship can arrive without warning. Young people learn this lesson early. Very early. A child might watch a healthy relative suddenly become sick. A family might experience a poor harvest. An unexpected flood may damage fields. The future feels uncertain in ways that are difficult to escape. And so stability becomes precious. Tradition becomes precious. Families hold tightly to familiar routines because routines offer a sense of safety. The known path may not be exciting, but it is known. That knowledge brings comfort. As the morning continues, The heat slowly begins its climb. The cool air retreats. The sunlight grows stronger. Workers settle into the long hours ahead. In the fields, young laborers bend over crops. The earth feels warm beneath their feet. Birds circle overhead. The sounds of insects rise steadily. Sweat forms upon foreheads. Work progresses one small task at a time. Ancient farming is filled with repetition. There are no machines. No shortcuts. Every action requires effort. Hands plant seeds. Hands remove weeds. Hands harvest crops. The body becomes the primary tool. Young people quickly learn endurance. They learn how to continue despite fatigue. How to keep moving when muscles ache. How to finish a task simply because it needs finishing. The lessons are physical as much as mental. The land itself becomes a teacher. The seasons become teachers. The river becomes a teacher. Each day offers another small lesson about patience. Across the village, a different young person spends the morning inside a workshop. The air smells of wood and dust. Sunlight enters through a narrow opening above. Tiny particles float through the beams of light. The apprentice watches carefully. An older craftsman shapes a piece of wood with practiced hands. Every movement appears effortless. But only because thousands of similar movements came before. Skill is built slowly. Almost invisibly. One day follows another. 1 year follows another. And eventually experience settles into the body like memory. The apprentice dreams of becoming skilled as well. Perhaps respected. Perhaps trusted. Perhaps one day training someone younger. These ambitions exist. Young people still hope. Still imagine. Still dream. But their dreams often remain within the boundaries of their expected lives. A farmer may dream of becoming a successful farmer. A craftsman may dream of mastering a craft. A merchant's child may dream of traveling farther than previous generations. The dreams stretch outward. Yet they rarely break entirely free from tradition. The world feels too established. Too structured. Too fixed. Outside, the sun reaches higher into the sky. The heat deepens. The village slows beneath its weight. Shadows shrink. Walls radiate warmth. The smell of baked earth fills the air. People seek moments of relief whenever they can find them. A patch of shade. A cool drink of water. A brief pause beside the river. Even small comforts matter. A young servant carries supplies through a large household. His feet move quickly across stone floors. The work never seems to end. One task leads immediately to another. A message must be delivered. A basket must be moved. Water must be fetched. The servant rarely chooses what happens next. Instructions arrive constantly. Adults decide. Young people obey. This pattern repeats across many parts of society. The older guide the younger. The powerful guide the less powerful. Authority flows downward. Questions flow upward less often. For many young people, speaking openly is not encouraged. Listening matters more. Observing matters more. Respect matters more. Their voices exist. But those voices carry limited influence. This reality shapes daily life. A child may have opinions, preferences, ideas. Yet decisions usually belong to someone else. Parents decide. Employers decide. Community leaders decide. Priests decide. The young adapt to this structure because it surrounds them from birth. It feels normal. Perhaps not easy. but normal. The afternoon arrives. Heat settles heavily across the land. The Nile sparkles beneath bright sunlight. The desert beyond the fertile valley seems almost endless. Waves of warm air shimmer in the distance. A farmer pauses briefly. He straightens his back. Looks toward the river. Takes a slow breath. Then returns to work. Many moments in ancient life are like this. Small pauses. Brief rests. Tiny islands of stillness surrounded by labor. The work is demanding. But life is not entirely hardship. There are moments of beauty too. Moments easily overlooked. The sight of sunlight dancing upon water. The smell of bread baking. The cool feeling of evening air after a hot day. The laughter of children near the riverbank. The comfort of familiar voices. These simple experiences become important. Especially in lives shaped by routine. Especially in lives with limited choices. As the afternoon slowly fades, shadows begin growing once again. The light softens. The air becomes gentler. Workers sense the approaching evening. The hardest part of the day is ending. A group of young laborers walks home together. Dust rises beneath their sandals. Their conversation drifts lazily through the warm air. Perhaps they discuss work. Perhaps they discuss families. Perhaps they speak of nothing important at all. Not every moment carries great meaning. Sometimes companionship itself is enough. The village welcomes them back. Cooking fires appear. Smoke rises into the sky. The smell of meals spreads through narrow streets. Children help prepare food. Water jars are arranged. Animals are checked. The routines of evening begin. A young girl kneels beside an oven. Warm bread emerges from the heat. The smell fills the room. Simple food. Simple comfort. The family gathers. The day's work slowly falls away. For a little while, labor gives way to rest. Stories are shared. News travels from household to household. Voices remain soft. The pace remains gentle. Outside, darkness gradually returns. Stars emerge once more. The river reflects moonlight. The village settles into quiet. A young boy steps outside briefly before sleep. The air feels cooler now. The sky stretches endlessly overhead. He looks toward distant darkness beyond the fields. Beyond the river. Beyond the places he knows. Perhaps he wonders what lies there. Perhaps not. The world is large. His own life feels much smaller. Yet there is mystery even within familiar places. The river itself seems full of secrets. The stars seem full of stories. The future remains hidden. Even for those whose paths appear already chosen. He returns inside. The household prepares for sleep. The lamp flickers gently. Shadows dance against the walls. One by one, family members settle onto reed mats. The room grows quiet. Eyes close. Breathing slows. Outside, the Nile continues its ancient journey through the darkness. Water brushes softly against the shore. Reeds sway beneath the night breeze. And across the river valley, countless young people drift into sleep once again, carrying hopes, worries, duties, and dreams through a world where they are expected to listen far more often than they are expected to speak, while another peaceful night settles over the ancient land. The night settles deeply across the Nile Valley. The last cooking fires have faded into glowing embers. The sounds of work have disappeared. Even the donkeys and goats seem quieter now, resting after another long day beneath the Egyptian sun. Only the river remains awake. It moves through the darkness with patient confidence, just as it did yesterday, and the day before that, and for countless generations before anyone living could remember. The water glides past reeds and riverbanks. Moonlight dances softly across its surface. A cool breeze drifts over the fields. For a little while, the world feels gentle. Inside a small mud-brick home, a young girl sleeps beside her sisters. The room is warm. Not uncomfortable. Just warm enough that everyone sleeps lightly. The walls hold traces of the day's heat. A woven basket rests in one corner. Clay jars stand against another wall. The smell of grain lingers faintly in the air. Tomorrow's work is already waiting. The family simply cannot see it yet. For now, there is only darkness. Only sleep. Only the quiet breathing of people who spent the day working hard. Hours pass. The stars slowly travel across the sky. Then, almost unnoticed, the eastern horizon begins to pale. The darkness becomes softer. The outlines of palm trees emerge. Birds stir among the reeds. Morning approaches once more. The ancient world awakens. A young boy opens his eyes. For a few moments he lies still. His body feels heavy. Yesterday's labor remains in his muscles. His shoulders ache slightly. His hands feel rough. Yet this feeling is familiar. Most adults around him feel the same way. Most young people do as well. Work leaves its mark. Not dramatically. Not suddenly. But day after day. Little by little. The boy sits up. The floor beneath him feels cool. Outside, voices are already beginning to appear. Someone is drawing water. Someone else is feeding animals. The village stretches itself awake. The day begins before the sun has fully risen. It often must. The coolest hours are valuable. By midday, the heat will become far stronger. Every task completed early feels like a small gift. The boy steps outside. The morning air feels pleasant against his skin. The Nile glimmers in the distance. Mist hangs lightly above portions of the water. For a brief moment, everything seems peaceful. Then responsibilities arrive. Not loudly. Not harshly. Simply steadily. A father calls for help. A tool needs carrying. A task needs completing. The day moves forward. In ancient Egypt, young people rarely controlled their schedules. Adults decided where they would go. Adults decided what work needed doing. Adults decided what mattered most. This arrangement felt natural to nearly everyone involved. Children were expected to learn. Expected to assist. Expected to obey. These expectations surrounded them from birth. A young person might occasionally wish for something different. A slower day. A lighter task. More freedom. But wishes did not often change reality. Reality remained practical. Families depended on labor. Survival depended on cooperation. The needs of the household came first. As sunlight spreads across the landscape, the fields begin filling with workers. Green crops sway gently in the breeze. Birds dart through the air. The earth smells rich and fertile. The annual flooding of the Nile has left behind dark soil, and that soil supports nearly every aspect of life. A young worker bends down beside growing plants. The movements are familiar. Careful. Repetitive. His father works nearby. An older brother works nearby. Perhaps an uncle as well. Generations often labor together. Knowledge flows naturally between them. No formal lessons are necessary. The learning never truly stops. A correction here. A suggestion there. A demonstration of proper technique. Thousands of tiny lessons gradually build a lifetime of understanding. The young worker learns more than farming. He learns how adults carry themselves. How they solve problems. How they endure difficult days. How they respond when plans fail. The fields become a classroom without walls. The river becomes a teacher. The seasons become teachers. Experience becomes the greatest teacher of all. Meanwhile, back in the village, another kind of learning is taking place. A young girl helps her mother prepare food. The grinding stone moves steadily. Back and forth. Back and forth. The rhythm fills the room. The work requires patience. The grain slowly transforms into flour. The flour eventually becomes bread. The bread eventually becomes a meal. Nothing happens quickly. Ancient life is filled with long processes. Every necessity requires effort. Water must be carried. Food must be prepared. Clothing must be repaired. Homes must be maintained. The tasks seem endless because, in many ways, they are. Each day resets the cycle. Each morning brings new responsibilities. Yet there is comfort hidden inside routine. People know what to expect. They know their place within the household. They know how the day will likely unfold. Predictability creates a sense of order. And order feels reassuring in a world filled with uncertainty. Outside, the sun climbs higher. The coolness of dawn begins disappearing. Shadows shorten. The heat returns. Slowly at first. Then more noticeably. Workers wipe sweat from their brows. The smell of warm earth rises into the air. Dust drifts along village roads. A young apprentice enters a crowded workshop. The room buzzes with activity. Tools strike wood. Clay turns upon wheels. Voices exchange instructions. Sunlight filters through narrow openings in the walls. The apprentice feels small here. Not unimportant. Simply young. Everyone around him possesses more experience. More knowledge. More confidence. He watches carefully. Learning often begins with observation. Before mastering a skill, one must first learn to notice details. How a hand moves. How a tool is held. How mistakes are corrected. The apprentice absorbs everything. Some lessons enter his memory immediately. Others will not make sense until years later. This is often how knowledge works. A seed planted in youth may not fully grow until adulthood. The workshop grows warmer as the day continues. The apprentice's back begins to ache. His legs feel tired. Still, he continues. Most young people in ancient Egypt become familiar with fatigue. Not extraordinary fatigue. Just ordinary tiredness. The kind that arrives after hours of labor. The kind that settles into muscles at sunset. The kind that follows people home each evening. Rest is precious because work is constant. Across the village, a servant hurries through a larger household. The floors beneath his sandals are smooth stone. His tasks change throughout the day. Messages. Cleaning. Carrying supplies. Fetching water. Responding whenever someone calls his name. His time belongs largely to others. This is true for many young people. Their days are structured around obligations. Around expectations. Around responsibilities assigned by older generations. Choice exists. But often within narrow boundaries. A young servant may choose how quickly to complete a task. A young farmer may choose the order of certain chores. Small decisions remain. Large decisions are rarer. The path of life is usually shaped by forces already in place long before childhood begins. As midday approaches, the village seems to slow. The sun dominates the sky. Heat settles heavily across rooftops and roads. Animals seek shade. Workers pause whenever possible. The world feels quieter. Almost sleepy. A young laborer sits beneath a palm tree. For a few minutes, he rests. The shade feels wonderful. The breeze feels wonderful. Even a brief pause becomes something to appreciate. He drinks water slowly. Nearby, the Nile sparkles in the sunlight. The river looks cool from a distance. Inviting. Peaceful. Its presence comforts the entire region. The Nile is more than water. It is food. Transportation. Trade. Life itself. Young people grow up beside it. Its rhythms become their rhythms. Its moods become familiar. The annual flood shapes the calendar. The river determines when fields can be planted, when crops can grow, when harvests can begin. Every household pays attention. Every family depends upon it. The afternoon drifts onward. Heat presses down upon the land. The air shimmers above distant fields. A fisherman works along the riverbank. His son helps nearby. The younger boy carefully untangles sections of a net. The task requires concentration. One mistake can create problems later. The father occasionally offers guidance. A quiet correction. A brief instruction. The lessons continue. Always continuing. Many young people spend years preparing for adult responsibilities long before they officially become adults. Childhood and training exist side by side. Play exists. Laughter exists. Friendship exists. But preparation never disappears. The future waits patiently. And everyone knows it. As the day begins its slow journey toward evening, relief spreads through the village. The light softens. The heat loosens its grip. Long shadows return. Workers feel renewed energy. The hardest hours have passed. Children run through narrow paths. Neighbors exchange greetings. The smell of bread begins appearing once again. A young girl helps shape dough. Her hands move confidently now. Years of practice have made the process familiar. She remembers watching her mother perform the same work. Now she performs it herself. One day, perhaps, another young girl will watch her. The cycle continues. Generation after generation. Knowledge moving quietly through time. The evening sky grows golden. The Nile reflects warm colors. Birds return to their resting places. Boats make their final journeys of the day. Families gather. Meals are shared. Stories are exchanged. The pace becomes slower. Gentler. A young boy sits beside older relatives. He listens more than he speaks. Adults discuss crops, weather, repairs, community concerns. He absorbs the conversation. Learning happens here as well. Not through instruction. Through listening. Through presence. Through observation. Much of ancient life is learned this way. The young watch. The young listen. The young remember. Night arrives gradually. Stars appear one by one above the river. The air cools. The village quiets. The day's labor begins fading into memory. A young worker lies down upon a reed mat. His body feels pleasantly exhausted. His hands rest against his chest. Outside, the Nile continues flowing through darkness. The same river his parents knew. The same river their parents knew. The same river that has watched generations grow, work, dream, and grow old. The stars shine overhead. The breeze moves softly through the reeds. And throughout the villages lining the riverbanks, countless young people drift once more toward sleep, carrying tomorrow's duties quietly within them, while the ancient world settles into another peaceful night beneath the endless Egyptian sky. The Nile moves quietly through the darkness. Its waters slip past sleeping villages, past fields resting beneath the stars, past reeds that sway gently whenever the night breeze passes through. The river never truly stops. Even while people sleep, while cooking fires fade, while conversations disappear into silence, the Nile continues its ancient journey. Along its banks, the world is still. The moon hangs above the valley. The desert beyond the fertile land rests beneath silver light. Palm trees stand motionless. The air feels cooler now. For a few hours, the heat of the day has released its hold. Inside a modest mud-brick home, a young boy sleeps beside his family. The room is simple. The floor is hard-packed earth. A few clay jars stand near the wall. Bundles of reeds rest in one corner. There is little decoration. Little space. Yet the home feels familiar. Safe. Warm. Many families spend their entire lives within homes much like this one. Children are born here. They grow here. They learn here. And often they remain close to these places for most of their lives. The boy turns slightly in his sleep. Tomorrow will bring work. The next day will bring work as well. But for now, none of those responsibilities exist. There is only the steady rhythm of breathing. Only the distant sound of river water. Only the deep quiet of the ancient night. Hours pass. Slowly. Patiently. Then the eastern horizon begins to glow. At first it is barely noticeable. A faint pale line between earth and sky. The stars begin fading. The darkness softens. Birds stir among the reeds. Another day approaches. The cycle continues. It always continues. A woman rises before dawn. Her movements are practiced. She does not need to think about what comes next. Years of routine guide her actions. The lamp is checked. The grain is prepared. The household begins awakening. Nearby, a young girl opens her eyes. She knows the morning rhythm well. The sounds themselves are familiar. The scrape of a basket being moved. The gentle sound of grain being poured. The quiet footsteps of adults beginning another day. These sounds have surrounded her for as long as she can remember. The village slowly wakes. Doors open. Voices emerge. Donkeys bray softly. The smell of baking bread begins spreading through the cool air. Morning in ancient Egypt carries its own atmosphere. A feeling of possibility mixed with duty. The day has not yet become difficult. The heat has not yet arrived. The hardest work still waits ahead. For a brief time, the world feels gentle. Young people often cherish these moments without fully realizing it. The cool air. The quiet roads. The golden light spreading across the river. Simple things. Small things. Yet they become treasured memories. A young boy walks beside his father toward the fields. The earth feels firm beneath his sandals. Dew clings lightly to some plants. Birds move through the sky overhead. The Nile glimmers nearby. As they walk, the father occasionally points toward crops. toward irrigation channels, toward sections of land needing attention. The lessons begin before the work itself begins. Many young people spend years learning simply by accompanying adults. Watching, listening, observing. The knowledge accumulates gradually. One day a child notices how water moves through a canal. Another day he notices which crops grow best in certain soil. Months later he begins understanding why. Knowledge grows quietly, almost invisibly, like crops beneath the soil. The father does not deliver long speeches. He does not gather his son for formal lectures. Ancient education often happens through experience. A task performed together. A correction offered gently. A question answered while working. These moments shape entire lives. The fields are already beginning to warm beneath the rising sun. Workers spread across the landscape. Some carry tools. Others guide animals. Others inspect crops. Everywhere there is movement. Purposeful movement. The rhythm of labor fills the morning. Nearby, another young person begins a very different day. A girl remains within the village helping her family manage household responsibilities. Water must be collected. Grain must be processed. Food must be prepared. These tasks repeat endlessly. Yet each one matters. Every loaf of bread begins with grain. Every meal begins with preparation. Nothing appears magically. Everything requires effort. The girl lifts a clay jar. Its weight presses against her arms. She walks carefully toward the river. The path is familiar. She has traveled it hundreds of times. Perhaps thousands. The Nile waits quietly at the end of the journey. Its waters reflect the growing sunlight. Other villagers are already there. Some washing clothing. Some filling containers. Some exchanging brief conversations before work fully begins. Life gathers around water. It always has. The river is not merely part of the landscape. It is the center of existence. Children grow up hearing its sounds, watching its floods, depending upon its generosity. The Nile shapes everything. As morning progresses, the village becomes busier. The sounds of tools echo from workshops. Merchants arrange goods. Animals move through narrow roads. Dust rises beneath countless footsteps. The air begins warming. The day settles into its familiar rhythm. Inside a workshop near the edge of the village, a young apprentice concentrates on a simple task. His fingers work carefully. The older craftsmen nearby possess remarkable skill. Years of experience show in every movement. The apprentice hopes to reach that level someday. But not today. Today he is still learning. Still making mistakes. Still repeating basic exercises. Patience becomes one of his greatest lessons. Ancient life teaches patience constantly. A harvest requires patience. A craft requires patience. A boat requires patience. Even growing older requires patience. Nothing moves quickly. Everything unfolds in its own time. The apprentice glances toward the doorway. Sunlight spills across the floor. Dust particles drift through the beam of light. Outside, life continues. Inside, the slow process of learning continues. Hours pass. The sun climbs higher. Heat spreads across the valley. Workers feel it on their skin. Stone walls absorb it. Roads radiate it. The world becomes brighter and quieter at the same time. By midday, much of Egypt seems wrapped in sunlight. A young laborer pauses briefly beneath a tree. His breathing slows. His shoulders relax. For a few moments he simply sits. These pauses matter. Life is filled with work, but people are not machines. Bodies need rest. Minds need stillness. Even a few minutes beneath shade can feel precious. Nearby, the Nile sparkles brilliantly. The water seems almost alive beneath the sun. A small boat drifts across the surface. The fishermen aboard move slowly. No hurry. No rush. The river follows its own pace. People learn to follow it as well. Many young people spend years adapting themselves to rhythms they did not create. The rhythm of seasons. The rhythm of labor. The rhythm of family expectations. The rhythm of tradition. Choice exists, but often within carefully defined boundaries. A boy may choose how diligently he works. A girl may choose how skillfully she performs a task. Yet larger decisions frequently belong to others. Parents guide futures. Families guide futures. Communities guide futures. The young learn where they fit within the larger structure. Sometimes willingly. Sometimes reluctantly. Often simply because no alternative seems possible. The afternoon grows warmer. The village slows beneath the weight of heat. Voices become quieter. Movements become slower. Animals seek shade. Workers focus on completing essential tasks. A young servant carries supplies across a courtyard. The stone beneath his feet feels warm. The sunlight reflects from whitewashed walls. His duties seem endless. Each completed task leads directly to another. Yet he continues. Everyone continues. Because life requires it. Across ancient Egypt, countless young people live similar days. Their names will never appear in royal records. Their faces will never be carved into monuments. History rarely remembers them individually. Yet their labor supports everything around them. The bread baked each morning. The crops harvested each season. The goods traded along the river. The homes maintained year after year. Ordinary lives sustain extraordinary civilizations. As afternoon slowly turns toward evening, relief begins spreading through the village. Shadows lengthen. The sunlight softens. The air cools slightly. Workers feel renewed energy. The hardest part of the day is ending. Children's voices become more common. Laughter drifts through narrow streets. Cooking fires begin appearing. The smell of bread returns once again. A young girl kneads dough beside her mother. Her hands move confidently. Years of practice have made the process familiar. She remembers when the task seemed difficult. Now it feels natural. This is how many skills develop. Not through sudden mastery. Through repetition. Through countless ordinary days. The evening sky glows gold above the Nile. Boats return to shore. Farmers return from fields. Craftsmen leave workshops. Families gather. The village transforms. The energy of work slowly becomes the energy of home. Meals are shared. Stories are exchanged. Advice is offered. News travels from one household to another. A young boy listens closely. The adults speak of harvests. River levels. Neighbors. Repairs that must be completed. Future plans. The boy rarely speaks. Not because he has nothing to say. Because listening is expected. Young people learn by absorbing. By observing. By paying attention. Their voices often come later. Much later. The stars begin appearing overhead. One by one. The sky darkens. The Nile reflects moonlight once more, The day finally releases its grip. Families prepare for sleep. Lamps flicker softly. The sounds of the village fade. A young worker lies down upon a reed mat. His body feels pleasantly tired. His muscles ache from labor. His hands feel rough. Yet there is satisfaction in rest earned through effort. Outside, the river continues flowing through the darkness. The same water that nourished ancestors. The same water that will nourish future generations. The breeze moves gently through the reeds. Palm trees whisper softly in the night. And throughout the Nile Valley, countless young people close their eyes beneath ancient stars, carrying responsibilities far older than themselves, while the quiet river keeps watch through another peaceful Egyptian night. The river keeps moving. Long after the lamps have gone dark, long after the last voice has faded from the village roads, the Nile continues its patient journey through the night. The water brushes softly against muddy banks. Reeds sway gently. The stars shine above the valley. Everything feels calm. Everything feels distant. For the people sleeping beside the river, this quiet darkness is one of the few times when expectations loosen their grip. No crops need tending. No grain needs grinding. No tools need carrying. No instructions need following. For a few short hours, the ancient world simply rests. Inside a small home near the edge of a village, a young boy sleeps deeply. His hands rest beside him. His breathing is slow. Earlier that day he spent hours in the fields beneath the sun. Tomorrow he will return there again. But tonight his dreams belong only to him. Perhaps he dreams of the river. Perhaps of boats drifting toward places he has never seen. Perhaps of nothing at all. Outside, moonlight washes over the village roofs. Mudbrick walls glow softly beneath the pale light. The scene feels timeless. Generations have slept beneath this same sky. Generations have awakened to the same responsibilities. And generations yet to come will do the same. The stars slowly cross overhead. The air remains cool. Then, as always, morning begins its gradual return. The eastern horizon brightens. Birds stir among the reeds. The darkness softens. Shapes emerge. Palm trees. Boats. Fields. Homes. Another day is arriving. The village begins to wake. A woman rises first. Many mornings begin this way. Before the children. Before most workers. Before the village fully stirs. She moves quietly through the room. A clay jar is lifted. A basket is adjusted. The routines of daily life begin once more. Nearby, a young girl opens her eyes. She has awakened to similar mornings for years. The sounds are familiar. Comfortingly familiar. The movement of family members. The soft scrape of pottery. The distant sound of a donkey somewhere outside. Life follows patterns. And these patterns become deeply woven into memory. The girl sits up. Her day is already waiting. There will be water to carry. Food to prepare. Tasks to complete. The exact details may change. The responsibilities rarely do. As sunlight begins spreading across the valley, the village gradually fills with activity. People emerge from their homes. Voices drip through the cool air. The smell of baking bread appears once again. Fresh loaves emerge from clay ovens. Their warm scent spreads through narrow streets. For many families, bread is more than food. It is a daily certainty. A dependable part of life. A comfort that returns every morning. The young girl helps shape dough. Her hands move automatically now. Years of practice have taught her exactly what to do. The work no longer requires much thought. That is often how life unfolds here. Skills become habits. Habits become routines. Routines become entire ways of living. Meanwhile, along the riverbank, fishermen prepare for the day. The Nile glimmers beneath the early sunlight. Mist lingers above the water in some places. Boats rock gently near shore. A young boy helps his father untangle a net. The rope feels rough against his fingers. The knots require patience. Everything requires patience. Patience is one of the first lessons ancient life teaches. Crops grow slowly. Children grow slowly. Skills develop slowly. Even the river follows its own patient rhythm. The boy watches his father carefully. Every movement contains knowledge. Every action demonstrates experience. The father rarely explains everything. Much learning happens through observation. The boy notices how the net is folded, how the boat is balanced, how the river is watched. The lessons settle quietly into memory. Years later, he may not remember exactly when he learned these things. Only that he somehow knows them. Across the village, farmers are already moving toward the fields. The morning air still feels pleasant. That will not last forever. By midday, the heat will return. The workers know this. Their bodies know this. The land knows this. And so the early hours are precious. A young farm worker walks beside older relatives. The path is familiar beneath his sandals. He has traveled it so many times that he hardly notices it anymore. The fields spread before them. Green against the surrounding desert. Life against dryness. The contrast is striking. Without the Nile, much of this landscape would be empty and harsh. With the Nile, entire communities thrive. The young worker kneels beside growing crops. His hands move through the soil. The earth feels rich. Cooler than the air above it. He begins another day of labor. Not because he chose this life. Not because he carefully considered many alternatives. Because this is the life waiting for him. The life his family understands. The life his community understands. The life everyone expects. And expectations carry tremendous weight. Especially when they surround a person from birth. Many young people never experience a moment when someone asks what kind of future they desire. The future is often assumed. Inherited. Passed down like tools or land or family stories. A son learns his father's work. A daughter learns her mother's responsibilities. The pattern repeats. Not perfectly. Not always. But often enough that it shapes entire generations. The sun rises higher. The village grows warmer. Shadows begin shrinking. The sounds of work fill the air. Wood being shaped. Stone being moved. Animals calling. People speaking. Life unfolds everywhere at once. In one workshop, a young apprentice carefully sands a wooden object. The work requires concentration. Tiny details matter. A mistake could ruin hours of effort. The apprentice leans closer. Dust gathers on his hands. Sweat forms along his forehead. Nearby, experienced craftsmen continue their work. Their movements appear effortless. Smooth. Confident. Years of repetition have made difficult tasks seem easy. The apprentice hopes to reach that level someday. That hope gives purpose to long hours. Many young people carry similar hopes. Not necessarily dreams of becoming wealthy or powerful. Those possibilities often feel far away. Instead, they hope to become capable, respected, trusted, useful, to perform their responsibilities well, to support a family, to earn a place within the community. These goals feel realistic, reachable, important. The morning gradually becomes afternoon. Heat settles across the valley. The sunlight grows intense. The roads become dusty. The air feels heavy. Workers slow their pace whenever possible. Animals seek shade. Birds become quieter. A young servant carries water through a large household. The clay jar feels heavier with every step. His shoulders ache. His feet are tired. Yet the task continues. One errand follows another. The day stretches onward. For many young people, fatigue is a familiar companion. Not overwhelming exhaustion. Just constant tiredness. The kind that settles into the body after years of labor. The kind that becomes so normal it is hardly noticed anymore. Rest exists. But work always returns. The servant pauses briefly in the shade of a wall. A cool breeze touches his face. For a moment he simply stands there. Breathing. Listening. Enjoying the smallest bit of relief. Then he continues. The task is not finished. Across the village, another young person experiences a similar moment. A brief pause beneath a tree. A drink of water. A chance to sit for a few minutes. These moments are precious. Not because they are dramatic. Because they are simple. Ancient life is built from simple things. Simple meals. Simple homes. Simple routines. And simple moments of comfort. As afternoon slowly moves toward evening, the atmosphere begins to change. The harsh brightness softens. The air cools slightly. Long shadows return. Workers sense the day's end approaching. Energy begins returning to tired bodies. Children's voices become more common. Conversations grow easier. The village feels lighter somehow. The smell of cooking drifts through the air. Fresh bread. Roasted vegetables. Warm grain. Families begin preparing evening meals. The sounds of labor slowly give way to the sounds of home. A young girl carries a basket through a narrow street. She passes neighbors she has known her entire life. Faces that have always been there. Homes that have always been there. Ancient villages are often close-knit places. People know one another. They know family histories. They know responsibilities. They know expectations. A young person grows up surrounded by this knowledge. The community helps shape identity. Sometimes gently. Sometimes firmly. Everyone understands where they belong. As the sun sinks lower, golden light spreads across the Nile. The river seems almost magical in these moments. Its surface glows softly. Boats drift toward shore. Birds settle into the reeds. The heat of the day finally begins to fade. Families gather together. Meals are shared. Stories are exchanged. Children listen. Adults speak. The rhythm feels ancient. Comfortable. Steady. A young boy sits quietly near his father. The conversation turns toward future work. Repairs needed in the coming weeks. Plans for the next season. Tasks that must be completed. The boy listens carefully. Little by little, the responsibilities of adulthood are being introduced. Not all at once. Just enough to prepare him. Preparation is constant in this world. Every year adds a little more responsibility. Every year brings new expectations. and eventually childhood slips away so gradually that it is difficult to identify exactly when it happened. The stars appear overhead. The sky darkens. The village grows quiet. The day's labor finally comes to an end. A young worker lies down upon a reed mat. The room is warm, comfortable, familiar. Outside, the Nile flows beneath moonlight. Its waters whisper softly against the shore. The breeze moves through the reeds. The desert rests beyond the fertile valley. And throughout ancient Egypt, countless young people drift into sleep once again, carrying inherited duties, silent hopes, and unspoken questions into their dreams, while the river continues its endless journey through the peaceful darkness. The Nile flows beneath the moon. Its waters move through the darkness with a calm certainty that seems older than memory itself. Along the riverbanks, villages sleep beneath quiet skies. The day's heat has finally faded. The dust has settled. The roads are empty. Only the river continues its gentle motion. A cool breeze passes through the reeds. Palm leaves whisper softly. The stars shine brightly above the valley. For a little while, the ancient world feels suspended between one day and the next. Inside a modest mud-brick home, a young girl sleeps beside her family. Her day was long. She carried water, prepared grain, helped with meals, completed dozens of small tasks that, together, filled nearly every hour. Tomorrow will be much the same. Yet tonight she rests. Her breathing is slow, peaceful. The responsibilities waiting beyond dawn cannot reach her here. For now, there is only sleep. Only dreams. Only the comforting darkness of night. Hours drift by. The stars continue their slow journey overhead. The moon gradually lowers. The eastern horizon begins to brighten. Morning is returning. As always, it arrives quietly. No sudden change. No dramatic announcement. Just a gradual softening of darkness. A faint glow beyond the river. Birds beginning to stir among the reeds. The ancient world wakes once more. A rooster calls somewhere in the distance. A donkey shifts in its shelter. A door opens. Footsteps appear on a village path. The day begins. Inside the small home, the young girl opens her eyes. For a moment she remains still. The room is dim. The air is cool. She listens to the sounds around her. Family members waking. Clay jars being moved. The distant murmur of voices outside. Another day has arrived. Another day of expectations. Another day of responsibilities. She rises. The packed earth floor feels cool beneath her feet. Soon the sun will warm everything. Soon the familiar cycle will begin again. Outside, the village slowly comes to life. Smoke rises from ovens. The smell of baking bread drifts through the air. People greet one another quietly. Children carry baskets. Workers gather tools. The first sunlight touches the Nile. The river glows gold. Morning in ancient Egypt can feel beautiful. The air remains gentle. The heat has not yet arrived. The village moves with calm purpose. For a brief time, the world feels almost effortless. A young boy walks toward the river carrying a small basket. The path winds between homes and storage buildings. He knows every step of the journey. Every corner. Every stone. The village is not large. Most people spend their lives surrounded by familiar sights. Familiar faces. Familiar roads. The world beyond may seem vast. Yet daily life often unfolds within surprisingly small spaces. The boy reaches the riverbank. The Nile stretches before him. Wide. Quiet. Ancient. The water reflects the growing light of dawn. Nearby, fishermen prepare their boats. The smell of wet reeds drifts through the air. A cool breeze moves across the surface of the river. For a moment, the boy simply watches. Boats have always fascinated many young people. They arrive from distant places. They carry goods from towns the boy may never visit. They bring stories, news, rumors, small glimpses of a larger world. Sometimes a young person standing beside the river imagines what lies beyond the horizon. What lies beyond the next bend in the Nile? What lies beyond the deserts? The thoughts may linger only briefly. There is work to do. Yet curiosity has always existed. Even in lives shaped by routine. Even in lives with few choices. The imagination still wanders. The imagination still asks questions. As the morning continues, farmers move into the fields. The soil remains cool from the night. Birds search for insects among the crops. The landscape feels alive. A young farm worker joins his family. His hands already know many of the tasks. Years of observation have become skill. The movements feel natural. Almost automatic. He bends toward the crops. Checks irrigation channels. Carries tools where they are needed. The work is not exciting. Most work rarely is. But it matters. That simple fact gives it meaning. The crops will feed families. The harvest will support the village. Everyone depends upon everyone else. The young worker understands this. Perhaps not in grand words, but through daily experience. His labor matters. The labor of others matters. Life is connected. Across the valley, a different young person spends the morning in a workshop. The building is already growing warm. Sunlight enters through small openings in the walls. Dust drifts through the beams of light. Tools rest upon wooden tables. The sounds of work fill the room. A young apprentice watches an older craftsman carefully. The older man shapes wood with steady hands. Years of practice are visible in every movement. Nothing appears rushed. Nothing appears uncertain. The apprentice studies each detail. Learning often begins with attention. Not action. Attention. The ability to notice small things. The angle of a tool. The pressure of a hand. The timing of a movement. Knowledge passes quietly from one generation to another. No grand ceremony marks the transfer. It simply happens. Day after day. Year after year. The apprentice dreams of one day becoming skilled enough to teach others. The dream is modest, yet important. Many young people in ancient Egypt carry modest dreams. Dreams shaped by the world around them. Dreams that fit within familiar boundaries. To become respected. To support a family. To master a skill. To earn trust. These hopes may seem simple, but they carry great meaning. As the sun rises higher, the heat begins returning. The cool air fades. Shadows shorten. The village settles into the long hours of labor ahead. A young girl walks toward the river carrying empty jars. The clay containers bump softly against one another. The path feels warm beneath her sandals. She passes neighbors performing similar tasks. The daily routines of the village overlap in countless ways. People cross paths again and again. The same roads. The same wells. The same riverbank. The same marketplaces. Life feels shared. Closely shared. Privacy is limited. Individuality exists, but community often comes first. A young person grows up surrounded by expectations. Not only from parents, from neighbors, from relatives, from everyone. The village itself becomes a kind of teacher. Everyone observes. Everyone notices. Everyone remembers. This can feel comforting. It can also feel restrictive. A young person may sometimes wish to follow a different path. Yet such thoughts often remain private. The weight of tradition is strong. Tradition offers security. Tradition offers belonging. Leaving familiar expectations can feel frightening, especially when survival depends upon cooperation. The day grows hotter. The sun dominates the sky. Workers move more slowly. Animals seek shade. The roads appear almost empty during the hottest hours. A young servant carries supplies through a large courtyard. Sweat gathers on his forehead. The stone beneath his feet radiates warmth. His tasks seem endless. One instruction follows another. One responsibility follows another. The day stretches onward. Yet he continues. Most young people do. The ability to endure becomes an important skill. Not only physical endurance, emotional endurance as well. Patience, persistence, acceptance of routine. These qualities develop slowly over time. Much like everything else in the ancient world. Nearby, a group of laborers pauses beneath a tree. For a few moments they rest. Drink water. Share brief conversation. The shade feels wonderful. The breeze feels wonderful. Small comforts gain value when daily life is demanding. A cool drink. A patch of shade. A quiet evening. A good harvest. Simple blessings matter deeply. The afternoon drifts onward. The air shimmers above the fields. The Nile sparkles beneath the sunlight. Boats move slowly along the water. A fisherman repairs a net. His son sits nearby. Watching. Learning. Waiting for his turn. The scene has repeated countless times across countless generations. A parent teaching a child. A child preparing to become an adult. The cycle continues endlessly. Many young people understand their future long before they reach it. They can see it unfolding around them. They can see older versions of themselves in the adults nearby. The farmer sees future farmers. The potter sees future potters. The servant sees future servants. The responsibilities waiting ahead are rarely hidden. They stand in plain sight. As afternoon gradually softens into evening, the atmosphere changes. The harsh sunlight begins to fade. Long shadows return. The village breathes a little easier. Children's laughter appears more often. Workers straighten their backs. The end of the day approaches. A young girl returns home carrying supplies. The smell of bread drifts through the air. Cooking fires glow softly. Families begin gathering. The village transforms from a place of labor into a place of rest. Meals are prepared. Stories are shared. Advice is offered. News spreads from household to household. A young boy sits quietly near his grandfather. The older man speaks slowly. His voice carries years of experience. The boy listens carefully. Not every lesson comes from work. Some come from stories. From memories. From observations gathered over a lifetime. The wisdom of elders holds great value. Young people are expected to listen. To remember. To carry that knowledge forward. Night arrives gently. The stars emerge above the Nile. The river reflects their light. The breeze cools the village. The sounds of work disappear. A young worker lies upon a reed mat. His body feels tired. His mind feels calm. Outside, the Nile continues its endless journey through the darkness. The same river his ancestors knew. The same river future generations will know. And beneath the peaceful Egyptian sky, countless young people drift once more into sleep, carrying the hopes of youth and the weight of expectation together, while the ancient world grows quiet around them and the river whispers softly through the night. The river whispers softly in the darkness. Its waters slide past sleeping villages, past silent docks, past clusters of reeds that sway beneath the cool night breeze. The moon hangs above the Nile Valley, painting silver paths across the water. Far beyond the fertile riverbanks, the desert rests beneath a blanket of stars. Everything feels still. Everything feels calm. The labor of the day has faded away. The fields are empty. The workshops are quiet. The ovens have cooled. For a few precious hours, ancient Egypt belongs to sleep. Inside a small mud-brick home, a young boy lies on a woven reed mat. The room is crowded but peaceful. His parents sleep nearby. His brothers and sisters rest close together. The air carries the faint smell of grain and clay. The walls hold traces of warmth gathered during the day. Outside, the breeze brushes gently against the roof. The boy sleeps deeply. Yet even in sleep, the shape of his future waits patiently. It waits beyond tomorrow. Beyond next week. Beyond next year. Like many young people of his time, his path already seems visible. Not every detail. Not every event. But the outline. The broad shape of life. The work he will likely do. The responsibilities he will likely carry. The role he will likely occupy within the community. These expectations surround him like invisible walls. Not cruel walls. Simply familiar ones. Walls built by tradition. By necessity. By generations who lived before him. The stars continue their slow journey overhead. The village remains quiet. Then, gradually, the darkness begins to soften. A pale glow appears in the east. Morning approaches. The ancient cycle begins once more. Birds awaken among the reeds. A distant donkey calls. The first villagers rise from sleep. The cool air of dawn fills narrow streets. Another day has arrived. A young girl opens her eyes. For a few moments she listens. The sounds are comforting. The familiar sounds of home. The movement of family members. The quiet preparation for the day ahead. The gentle rhythm of daily life. She sits up slowly. Outside, the sky is turning gold. The Nile catches the first rays of sunlight. The river glows. Morning often feels hopeful. Even when the day ahead will be filled with labor. Perhaps especially then. There is something peaceful about beginnings. Something reassuring about familiar routines. The girl steps outside. The air feels cool against her skin. Palm trees sway lightly. Smoke begins rising from nearby ovens. The smell of fresh bread drifts through the village. Soon, the streets will be busy. Soon, responsibilities will fill every hour. But not quite yet. For a little while longer, the world remains gentle. Nearby, an older woman kneels beside a grinding stone. The steady sound begins. Back and forth. Back and forth. A familiar sound. A sound heard throughout villages across Egypt every morning. A young child watches. perhaps only 6 or 7 years old. Still young enough to spend more time observing than helping. Yet the lessons have already begun. Without anyone announcing them. Without formal instruction. The child watches carefully. How grain becomes flour. How flour becomes bread. How bread becomes the meal that sustains the household. These lessons enter memory quietly. The child may not realize it. Yet each observation becomes part of an education. This is how many young people learn. By living close to work. By seeing tasks repeated every day. By participating little by little. The village grows busier as the sun rises higher. Workers emerge carrying tools. Farmers head toward fields. Craftsmen enter workshops. Merchants prepare goods. Animals move through dusty roads. Life unfolds in every direction. A young farm worker joins his family on a narrow path leading toward cultivated land. The Nile remains visible nearby. Its presence is constant. Always there. Always moving. The young worker has known the river his entire life. Its floods shape the seasons. Its waters shape the harvest. Its rhythms shape the community. Without the Nile, almost nothing around him would exist. The fields stretch ahead. Green against the golden landscape. The contrast remains striking. Life beside desert. Water beside dryness. The young worker kneels beside growing crops. The soil feels rich beneath his fingers. His work begins. Hours pass. The tasks are repetitive. Yet repetition is not unusual here. Ancient life often depends upon repeated actions. The same path walked daily. The same field tended daily. The same tools used daily. The same skills practiced daily. Over time, repetition becomes familiarity. Familiarity becomes expertise. A young person who spends years working beside experienced adults slowly absorbs their knowledge. The learning happens almost invisibly. One season blends into another. One year blends into another. Eventually the child becomes the teacher. The apprentice becomes the master. The learner becomes the guide. Across the village, a young apprentice sits inside a workshop filled with the smell of wood and dust. Sunlight enters through a narrow opening above. Tiny particles float through the warm air. The room feels peaceful despite the work taking place inside. An older craftsman carefully shapes a wooden object. The apprentice watches. Every movement seems precise. Measured. Intentional. The older man's hands carry years of experience. The apprentice hopes his own hands will one day move with such confidence. This hope helps carry him through long days. Many young people possess hopes like this. Not grand ambitions. Not dreams of fame. Simply hopes of competence. Of belonging. Of becoming good at something useful. Such goals matter deeply. Especially in a society where usefulness often determines value. The morning gradually becomes afternoon. The sun climbs overhead. The air grows warmer. The roads become dusty. The heat settles across the landscape. Workers seek shade whenever possible. Animals gather beneath trees. The pace of life slows slightly. A young servant crosses a courtyard carrying a heavy clay jar. The sunlight reflects brightly from nearby walls. His shoulders ache. His feet feel tired. Yet he continues walking. Responsibility rarely pauses. One task follows another. The rhythm continues. Many young people learn to place duty before comfort. Not because they enjoy hardship. Because duty surrounds them from an early age. The needs of the family. The needs of employers. The needs of the community. These needs shape daily life. Personal desires often wait their turn. Sometimes they wait a very long time. The servant reaches his destination. Places the jar carefully. Takes a slow breath. Then moves on to the next responsibility. Across Egypt, countless young people spend their days doing similar things. Carrying. Cleaning. Repairing. Harvesting. Preparing. Serving. Building. Learning. Helping. Their lives fill the spaces between the famous events recorded by history. The great monuments may survive for thousands of years. The names of kings may be remembered. But ordinary young people keep society functioning. Their labor supports everything. Without them, fields would remain unplanted. Homes would fall into disrepair. Food would not reach tables. Life would simply stop. Yet their names are rarely preserved. The afternoon stretches onward. Heat shimmers above the earth. The Nile sparkles beneath the bright sky. A fisherman repairs a net near the riverbank. His son sits beside him. Neither speaks very much. Words are not always necessary. The lesson is happening anyway. The boy watches. The father demonstrates. Knowledge passes quietly between generations. This scene has occurred countless times before. And it will occur countless times again. As the day begins its gradual turn toward evening, shadows lengthen across the village. The sunlight softens. The air cools slightly. Workers begin returning home. The mood changes. There is relief in the air. A sense that the hardest part of the day has passed. Children play briefly in open spaces. Neighbors exchange greetings. The smell of cooking spreads through the streets. Fresh bread. Stewed vegetables. Warm grain. Simple meals. Comforting meals. A young girl helps prepare the evening food. Her hands move confidently. The tasks no longer feel difficult. They feel familiar. Years of practice have transformed effort into routine. Nearby, family members gather. Voices remain soft. The atmosphere feels peaceful. The village settles into its evening rhythm. The sky turns gold. Then orange. Then deep shades of blue. The Nile reflects the changing colors. Birds settle into the reeds. Boats return to shore. The world grows quieter. A young boy sits beside his grandfather near the doorway of their home. The older man watches the fading light. His face carries the marks of many years. Years of work. Years of responsibility. Years of experience. The boy studies him quietly. Perhaps he wonders what his own future will look like. Perhaps he already knows. In many ways, the answer stands before him. The path from youth to adulthood is visible all around. Every older worker was once a child. Every parent was once young. Every elder once carried water, learned skills, and listened more than they spoke. The cycle continues. Night arrives. The stars emerge above the valley. The air cools. The village grows still. Families settle onto reed mats. Lamps flicker softly. The sounds of conversation fade. Outside, the Nile continues its endless journey through darkness. The river does not hurry. The river does not stop. It simply flows. And beneath the vast Egyptian sky, countless young people drift gently into sleep once more, carrying tomorrow's duties into their dreams while the ancient river watches over them through another peaceful and silent night. The Nile flows beneath a sky full of stars. Its waters glide through the darkness with the same calm rhythm they carried 1,000 years before, and the same rhythm they will carry 1,000 years after. Along the riverbanks, villages sleep quietly beneath the night air. The fields are still. The workshops are silent. The dust of the day has settled. The world feels at rest. A gentle breeze moves through the reeds. Palm leaves rustle softly. Moonlight touches the mud-brick walls of homes clustered beside the river. For a few peaceful hours, ancient Egypt belongs to dreams. Inside one small house, a young boy sleeps curled beneath a simple woven blanket. The room is dark except for a faint glow from a dying oil lamp. His father sleeps nearby. His mother rests nearby. The entire household shares the same space. The sounds of breathing fill the room. The sense of closeness is constant. In this world, people rarely spend much time alone. Life unfolds together. Families work together. Eat together. Sleep together. The boundaries between individual lives are often thin. A young person's future is tied closely to the future of everyone else in the household. If the harvest succeeds, everyone benefits. If hardship arrives, everyone feels it. The boy shifts slightly in his sleep. Tomorrow will bring another day of labor. Another day of learning. Another day of slowly growing toward adulthood. Yet tonight, none of those concerns are present. Only the quiet comfort of rest. Outside, the stars continue their slow movement across the heavens. Ancient people often spent more time looking at the night sky than many people do today. Without bright lights filling the darkness, the stars appeared endless. Sharp. Brilliant. The sky itself seemed alive. A young person lying awake at night might stare upward and wonder about distant places. About distant people. About distant futures. The imagination has always traveled farther than the body. Even when roads are limited. Even when choices are limited. The mind remains free to wander. Hours pass. The moon slowly sinks lower. The eastern horizon begins to glow. Morning approaches once more. The darkness softens. Birds begin calling from the reeds. A cool freshness settles over the land. The village stirs. The cycle begins again. A young girl wakes before sunrise. Her eyes open slowly. The room remains dim. For a moment she listens. The familiar sounds are already beginning. A clay jar being lifted. A basket being moved. Someone stepping outside. The day is arriving. She rises quietly. The earth floor feels cool beneath her feet. The air smells faintly of grain and smoke. Soon, ovens will be lit. Bread will be baked. Water will be carried. Tasks will multiply. But for these few moments, the village remains peaceful. Outside, the first light touches the Nile. The water gleams softly. Mist hovers over sections of the river. Birds skim across the surface. Everything feels calm. The young girl walks toward the river carrying empty containers. She is not alone. Other villagers follow similar paths. The roads are familiar. The routines are familiar. Nearly everyone knows what their day will contain before it begins. There is comfort in that certainty. There can also be limits. A young person may sometimes wonder what it would feel like to wake without already knowing the shape of the day ahead. To choose something unexpected. To walk a different road. Yet such thoughts often remain brief. Work waits. Responsibilities wait. The household depends upon them. The riverbank gradually becomes busy. People fill jars. Wash clothing. Exchange quiet greetings. The Nile reflects the growing sunlight. Its presence feels reassuring. Steady. Dependable. Ancient Egyptians often organized their lives around forces larger than themselves. The river. The seasons. The floodwaters. The harvest. Many aspects of life existed beyond personal control. Perhaps this is one reason routine became so important. Routine created order within uncertainty. Routine offered stability. Routine gave shape to daily life. As the morning progresses, farmers head toward the fields. A young worker walks beside older relatives. The earth smells fresh. Birdsong fills the air. The coolness of dawn remains for a little while longer. The young worker carries tools over one shoulder. The weight feels familiar. He has carried similar tools for years. The tasks awaiting him are not new. Nothing about the day is surprising. And yet every season brings small differences. Different weather. Different crops. Different challenges. The land is familiar, but never completely predictable. The fields spread outward beneath the rising sun. Workers begin their labor. Water channels are checked. Plants are inspected. Repairs are made where needed. The young worker moves steadily through each task. The motions feel natural now. Years of observation have shaped his body. His hands know what to do. His eyes know what to look for. His muscles remember. Many young people become skilled long before they are considered adults. Responsibility arrives gradually. Skill arrives gradually. By the time adulthood officially arrives, much of the preparation has already taken place. Across the village, another young person spends the morning inside a scribe's household. This life is somewhat different. Not everyone learns to read and write. Literacy requires training. Time. Opportunity. For a fortunate few, writing becomes a profession. A young apprentice sits carefully beside an older scribe. Papyrus lies on a nearby table. Ink rests within small containers. The room feels quieter than a workshop. More still. More focused. The apprentice practices symbols repeatedly. The work demands patience. Precision. Concentration. Mistakes require correction. The older scribe watches carefully. Offering guidance. Making small adjustments. The apprentice dreams of mastering these skills. Writing carries status. Knowledge carries status. Yet even here, expectations remain powerful. The apprentice's path has largely been chosen already. His role is to learn. To absorb. To continue the tradition. Throughout ancient Egypt, different young people follow different roads. Yet many experiences remain the same. The expectation to obey. The expectation to learn. The expectation to contribute. The expectation to eventually take one's place within society. The sun rises higher. The heat begins spreading across the valley. The cool hours disappear. Workers wipe sweat from their foreheads. Animals move toward shade. The pace of movement slows. A young servant crosses a courtyard carrying supplies. The clay jars feel heavy. The sunlight feels bright. The day feels long. Yet there is no sense in counting the hours. Time is measured differently here. By the position of the sun. By completed tasks. By seasons. By harvests. The servant continues working. One responsibility leading to another. Many young people become accustomed to placing their own desires behind the needs of others. The household comes first. The family comes first. The work comes first. Such values are taught constantly. Sometimes through words. More often through example. Children observe adults making sacrifices. Adults observe their own parents doing the same. The pattern repeats across generations. As afternoon arrives, heat settles heavily over the land. The air shimmers above distant fields. The roads appear quieter. A young fisherman sits beneath a patch of shade near the river. Beside him rests a repaired net. The work can wait for a few moments. The breeze coming from the water feels wonderful. He watches boats moving slowly along the Nile. Some travel toward larger towns. Some return home carrying goods. The boats seem almost peaceful as they glide across the water. For young people, such sights sometimes awaken curiosity. What lies beyond the next village? What lies beyond the next city? What lies beyond the distant horizon? Most may never travel far enough to discover the answers. Yet curiosity does not require travel. Curiosity lives comfortably inside the imagination. The afternoon eventually softens. The light becomes warmer. Long shadows begin returning. Workers sense relief approaching. The hardest hours are ending. Across the village, people begin preparing for evening. The smell of cooking rises into the air. Smoke drifts upward from ovens. Children carry supplies. Families gather. The atmosphere becomes gentler. A young girl helps prepare bread. The dough feels warm beneath her hands. The process is familiar. Comfortingly familiar. She has watched it since childhood. Now she performs it herself. One day another young girl may watch her. And the cycle will continue. As it always does. The sky turns golden. Then orange. The Nile reflects the colors beautifully. Birds return to the reeds. Boats return to shore. The village settles into its evening rhythm. A young boy sits quietly beside his grandmother. She tells stories in a soft voice. Stories she heard when she was young. Stories passed down through generations. The boy listens carefully. These moments matter. Not because they change the future. But because they connect people to one another. To family. To memory. To the generations that came before. Night slowly returns. Stars appear overhead. The air cools. The sounds of work disappear one by one. Families prepare for sleep. Reed mats are unrolled. Lamps flicker gently. The village grows quiet. A young worker closes his eyes. His body feels tired. His mind feels peaceful. Outside, the Nile continues flowing through the darkness. Steady. Ancient. Endless. And throughout the sleeping villages of Egypt, countless young people drift once more into dreams, carrying the weight of duty and the softness of hope together beneath the silent stars, while the river whispers its timeless song through another calm and comforting night. The Nile sings its quiet song through the darkness. The sound is soft enough that it almost disappears into the night. Water brushes against reeds. Gentle ripples spread across the river's surface. Moonlight drifts over the valley like a pale blanket, touching fields, boats, homes, and sleeping villages with the same silver glow. The ancient world rests. The day's labor has ended. The ovens have cooled. The roads stand empty. Only the stars remain awake. Far above the earth, countless points of light shine across the sky. They seem close enough to touch, yet impossibly distant. For thousands of years, young people have fallen asleep beneath these same stars, wondering about the world beyond their villages. Many of those questions remain unspoken. There is not always time for questions. There is work. There are responsibilities. There are expectations. Yet the questions still exist. Quietly. Patiently. Like seeds waiting beneath the soil. Inside a small home near the river, a young boy sleeps soundly beside his family. His day was filled with labor. His hands carried tools. His feet walked dusty paths. His shoulders worked beneath the growing heat of the sun. Now those efforts are forgotten for a few precious hours. Sleep offers a kind of freedom. Not freedom from life itself. Only freedom from its demands. The boy breathes slowly. Nearby, his younger brother shifts slightly in the darkness. Outside, the breeze moves gently through palm leaves. The village remains silent. The river flows on. Hours pass. The moon continues its slow journey overhead. Then, little by little, darkness begins to retreat. Morning approaches once again. The eastern sky grows pale. The stars fade. Birds awaken among the reeds. The first hints of gold appear along the horizon. Another day begins. The cycle continues. As it always has. As it always seems it will. A young girl wakes before sunrise. For a few moments she lies quietly. The air feels cool. The room feels peaceful. These early moments belong to no one. No tasks have begun. No instructions have been given. No expectations have arrived. There is only stillness. Then the sounds begin. A basket being lifted. Footsteps outside. The movement of family members preparing for the day. Responsibility returns gently but steadily. The girl rises. Her feet touch the packed earth floor. A familiar day waits ahead. Outside, dawn spreads across the Nile Valley. The river catches the first sunlight. The water glows softly. Mist drifts above sections of the riverbank. The scene feels beautiful in its simplicity. A fisherman prepares his boat. A farmer gathers tools. A woman lights an oven. Smoke rises into the cool morning air. The smell of fresh bread soon follows. These small scenes repeat themselves across countless villages. Each household begins the day differently. Yet all are connected by the same rhythm. The rhythm of work. The rhythm of family. The rhythm of survival. A young boy walks beside his father toward the fields. The path is quiet. Birds move among the crops. The air still carries traces of nighttime coolness. The father says little. Many fathers in ancient Egypt teach through example rather than speeches. The lessons unfold naturally. A tool handed over. A task demonstrated. A mistake corrected. The boy watches carefully. He has spent years doing so. Years learning without realizing how much he is learning. Knowledge accumulates slowly. One day he learns how to repair a channel. Another day he learns when crops require extra water. Another day he learns how to recognize signs of disease among plants. The lessons seem small. Together, they form an entire life. This is true for many young people. Their education is woven into ordinary days. There is no separation between learning and living. They are the same thing. The fields grow brighter beneath the rising sun. Workers spread across the land. The sounds of labor begin. Tools scrape soil. Voices drift across irrigation channels. Birds call from nearby reeds. The young worker joins the rhythm. Hours pass. The sun climbs higher. The heat slowly returns. Meanwhile, inside the village, another young person begins a different kind of work. A young girl helps her mother organize supplies within the household. Clay jars are checked. Grain stores are inspected. Bread is prepared. Water is carried. These tasks may appear simple, yet they require skill. Carelessness can waste precious resources. Attention matters. Experience matters. The girl has watched her mother perform these duties for years. Now she performs them herself. One day she may teach someone younger. The chain continues. Generation after generation. Knowledge passing quietly through time. The village grows busier. Merchants arrange goods. Animals move through narrow roads. Children run brief errands. The smell of warm bread fills the air. Dust rises beneath sandals. The sun continues climbing. The cool morning gradually disappears. By midday, heat settles over everything. The earth radiates warmth. Stone walls grow hot. The air becomes heavy. Workers seek shade whenever possible. A young apprentice sits inside a workshop. The room feels warmer now. Sunlight enters through small openings high above. Dust floats through the bright beams. The apprentice focuses on a difficult task. His hands are careful. Patient. Not yet as skilled as the master's hands nearby, but improving. Little by little. Ancient life rewards patience. Almost nothing happens quickly. A field requires months to produce crops. A craft requires years to master. A reputation requires decades to build. The apprentice understands this. Or perhaps he is still learning to understand it. Many young people struggle with impatience. They wish to become capable immediately. Respected immediately. Trusted immediately. Yet time moves at its own pace. The older craftsmen know this. Their calm movements reveal it. Their confidence reveals it. Years have shaped them. Years will shape the apprentice too. Outside, the village slows beneath the afternoon heat. Even conversation becomes quieter. The sunlight seems almost motionless overhead. A young servant carries a water jar through a courtyard. Sweat runs down his neck. The clay container feels heavy. His arms ache. Yet he continues. The task must be completed. In many ways, ancient youth is defined by obligation. Not necessarily harsh obligation. Simply constant obligation. There is always something that needs doing. A field needing attention. A tool needing repair. A sibling needing care. A message needing delivery. The needs never fully disappear. This reality shapes character. Young people learn responsibility early. Sometimes before they fully understand freedom. A servant pauses briefly beneath a shaded wall. The coolness feels wonderful. He closes his eyes for a moment. Just a moment. Then the work resumes. Across the village, similar scenes unfold. A farmer resting beneath a tree. A girl pausing beside the river. A fisherman sitting quietly while repairing nets. Small moments of rest. Small moments of peace. These moments matter deeply. Especially in lives built around labor. As afternoon slowly fades toward evening, the atmosphere changes. The heat begins to loosen its grip. The sunlight softens. Shadows grow longer. Relief spreads through the village. Workers straighten their backs. Tools are gathered. Tasks reach their conclusions. The end of the day approaches. Children's voices become louder. Neighbors stop to exchange news. The smell of cooking fills the streets once more. A young girl kneads dough beside a clay oven. The warmth of the fire touches her face. The scent of baking bread drifts into the evening air. Nearby, family members prepare vegetables. Water is poured. Baskets are arranged. Simple routines. Ancient routines. Comforting routines. The village gradually transforms from a place of work into a place of rest. The Nile glows beneath the setting sun. Gold becomes orange. Orange becomes red. The water reflects every color. Boats drift toward shore. Birds settle into the reeds. The day slowly comes to a close. A young boy sits outside his home. For a few minutes, he watches the river. The air feels cooler now. The sounds of evening surround him. Families talking. Children laughing. The crackle of cooking fires. He watches a boat disappear around a distant bend. And perhaps, just for a moment, he wonders where it is going. Perhaps he imagines places beyond the horizon. Places beyond the fields. Beyond the villages. Beyond the familiar world he knows. The thought arrives quietly. Then fades. The evening meal is ready. Family gathers. The moment passes. Yet such thoughts often return. Many young people carry them. Curiosity survives even within lives shaped by expectation. Dreams survive. Questions survive. The stars begin appearing overhead. One by one. The sky darkens. The village grows quiet. Families settle onto reed mats. Lamps flicker softly against mud-brick walls. Outside, the Nile continues its endless journey beneath the moonlight. The river has watched countless young lives unfold. Countless children grow into adults. Countless dreams rise and fade. Countless generations follow familiar paths. And tonight, as another peaceful Egyptian night settles over the valley, countless young people close their eyes once more, drifting gently toward sleep while the ancient river whispers beside them, carrying tomorrow silently toward the waiting dawn. The Nile carries the night forward. Its waters move beneath the moon with a slow and steady grace, slipping past villages that have long since fallen asleep. The river does not hurry. It never seems to hurry. It follows its ancient course through the valley, touching every settlement, every field, every life that depends upon it. Above, the stars fill the sky. Thousands upon thousands of points of light stretch from one horizon to the other. The night air is cool. The reeds whisper softly. The desert beyond the fertile valley rests in complete silence. For a little while, the world feels peaceful. A young boy sleeps inside a modest mud-brick home. His family rests nearby. The room is quiet except for the soft sounds of breathing. A clay jar stands near the doorway. A woven basket rests against the wall. Everything in the room serves a purpose. Nothing is extravagant. Nothing is wasted. The boy's hands are rough from work. Small signs of labor remain on his skin. Yet while he sleeps, none of that matters. Sleep treats everyone the same. The farmer. The servant. The fisherman. The apprentice. For a few hours, responsibilities fade into the darkness. The future waits patiently outside the dream. The moon slowly travels across the sky. The village remains still. Then the eastern horizon begins its familiar transformation. Darkness softens. The stars lose some of their brightness. A faint glow appears beyond the fields. Morning approaches once more. Birds begin calling from the reeds. A breeze drifts across the river. The Nile catches the first traces of light. Another day is arriving. The cycle continues. as it has for generations. A young girl opens her eyes before sunrise. The room remains dim. For a moment she stays where she is, listening. The world is beginning to wake around her. A family member moves quietly nearby. Outside, footsteps pass along the village road. The smell of smoke has not yet appeared. The ovens remain dark. These are the final moments of night. Brief. Peaceful. Soon they will be gone. The girl sits up. She knows what the day will bring. Water to carry. Food to prepare. Household duties to complete. The shape of the day already exists before it begins. For many young people in ancient Egypt, surprises are rare. Responsibilities arrive with dependable regularity. The same tasks return. The same roads are walked. The same tools are used. Routine becomes a companion. Sometimes comforting. Sometimes limiting. Often both at once. Outside, dawn spreads across the valley. The Nile glows with soft gold light. Mist lingers above portions of the water. The air feels fresh. Cool. Gentle. Farmers begin gathering tools. Fishermen prepare boats. Merchants organize goods. The village slowly fills with movement. A young boy walks beside his father toward a stretch of cultivated land. The earth beneath his sandals feels cool for now. By midday it will feel very different. The boy knows this. Everyone knows this. The sun will rise higher. The heat will arrive. The work will become harder. That is simply part of life. As they walk, the father points toward a section of irrigation channel. A repair will be needed soon. The boy nods. The lesson is simple. Practical. Another piece of knowledge added to many others. Ancient education often unfolds this way. Not through long explanations. Not through formal instruction. Through daily experience. A child observes. A child assists. A child learns. And eventually the child becomes the adult giving instructions. The transition happens gradually. Almost unnoticed. Years pass. Responsibilities increase. And one day youth quietly slips away. The fields awaken beneath the growing sunlight. Workers spread across the land. The smell of damp soil rises into the air. Birds move among the crops. The sounds of labor begin. A young worker bends toward the earth. His hands move confidently now. He remembers a time when every task felt unfamiliar. When tools felt awkward. When instructions seemed endless. That time is fading. Skill has begun replacing uncertainty. The body learns through repetition. The mind learns through repetition. The same work performed hundreds of times becomes second nature. Across the village, a young apprentice enters a workshop already warm from yesterday's heat. The room smells of wood shavings and dust. Light filters through narrow openings high in the walls. The apprentice takes his place. Work begins. The older craftsmen move with calm efficiency. Their hands seem to know exactly what to do before a task even begins. The apprentice admires this. Many young people admire competence. Not because it brings fame. Because it brings security. A skilled worker is valuable. A skilled worker is respected. A skilled worker can support a household. Such goals matter greatly. Especially in a society where survival often depends upon practical ability. The apprentice focuses on his task. Mistakes still happen. Small mistakes. Expected mistakes. No one becomes skilled immediately. Patience remains one of the most important lessons of all. Outside, the village grows busier. Children carry baskets. Animals move through dusty roads. Merchants call to customers. The smell of fresh bread drifts through the air. Life feels active, yet never rushed. Ancient days move at a different pace. The rhythm follows the sun, the river, the seasons. Everything unfolds gradually. As the morning advances, the heat begins returning. Shadows shorten. The air grows warmer. Workers wipe sweat from their foreheads. The sun climbs steadily overhead. A young girl walks toward the Nile carrying clay jars. The containers are empty now. Soon they will be heavy. She follows a familiar path. One she has traveled countless times before. The riverbank is already busy. Women fill containers. Children help carry supplies. Voices drift through the morning air. The Nile reflects the brightening sky. The young girl kneels beside the water. The river feels cool against her hands. For a moment she pauses, simply looking. The current moves steadily past. Boats drift in the distance. Birds circle overhead. The scene feels peaceful. The river offers many young people moments like this. Brief moments. Small moments. Yet meaningful. A chance to pause between responsibilities. A chance to simply exist. Then the jars are filled. The work resumes. The path home awaits. The sun continues its climb. By midday, heat settles heavily over the valley. Stone walls grow warm. Roads become dusty. The air shimmers above distant fields. A young servant crosses a courtyard carrying supplies. The task is not difficult, only repetitive. Many aspects of ancient life are repetitive. The same actions, the same routes, the same duties, again and again. Yet repetition creates mastery, and mastery creates confidence. The servant knows exactly what is expected. There is comfort in that knowledge. Not every day requires difficult decisions. Often the next task is already waiting. Already obvious. Already understood. As afternoon deepens, the village becomes quieter. People seek shade. Animals rest. The sunlight feels almost motionless. A young fisherman sits beneath a tree near the riverbank. Beside him rests a net needing repair. The work can wait a few minutes. The breeze coming off the water feels too pleasant to ignore. He watches the Nile. Watches the boats. Watches the sunlight dancing across the surface. Perhaps his thoughts wander. Perhaps he imagines distant cities upriver. Perhaps he wonders about travelers arriving from places he has never seen. The world beyond the village exists. Young people know this. They hear stories. They see merchants arrive. They watch boats come and go. Yet for most, those distant places remain distant. Interesting. Mysterious. Unreachable. The afternoon eventually begins to soften. The sun lowers. The heat gradually fades. Relief spreads through the valley. Workers straighten their backs. Conversations become easier. The smell of evening meals begins drifting through the streets. The village slowly transforms once again. Labor gives way to rest. A young girl helps prepare bread near a clay oven. The warmth of the fire glows against her face. The dough feels familiar beneath her hands. This task has become part of her life. One of countless routines woven into daily existence. Nearby, family members prepare the evening meal. Voices fill the home. Simple conversation. Simple comfort. The kind of moments that often go unrecorded by history. Yet these moments form the fabric of ordinary life. They matter. The sun sinks lower. Golden light spreads across the Nile. Boats return toward shore. Birds settle among the reeds. The sky slowly changes color. Gold becomes orange. Orange becomes purple. The first stars appear. A young boy sits outside his home watching the fading light. The air feels cooler now. The village feels calmer. Children's laughter drifts through the evening. A distant dog barks. The river reflects the final colors of sunset. For a moment, everything feels still. Peaceful. Complete. Night arrives gently. Families gather indoors. Reed mats are prepared. Oil lamps flicker softly. The sounds of the village begin fading away. One by one. A young worker lies down. His muscles feel tired. His mind feels quiet. Tomorrow's responsibilities remain in the future. Tonight belongs to rest. Outside, the Nile continues flowing beneath the stars. Steady. Ancient. Unchanging. And throughout the sleeping villages of Egypt, countless young people drift once more into dreams, carrying the lessons of another day within them, while the river moves silently through the darkness and the ancient world settles into another calm and comforting night. The ancient night stretches peacefully across the Nile Valley. The river moves through darkness like a ribbon of silver, reflecting moonlight as it passes sleeping villages and silent fields. The day's heat has vanished. The dust has settled. The voices of workers, merchants, and children have faded into memory. Only quiet remains. The reeds along the riverbank sway gently. A soft breeze crosses the water. Far beyond the fertile valley, the desert rests beneath endless stars. Everything feels distant. Everything feels calm. Inside a small mud-brick house, a young girl sleeps beside her family. The room is simple. A few clay jars stand against one wall. A basket of grain rests nearby. The faint scent of baked bread still lingers in the air. The girl sleeps deeply. Her hands, tired from the day's work, are finally still. Tomorrow there will be more responsibilities. More water to carry. More food to prepare. More tasks waiting patiently for her attention. But not now. For now, she belongs to the quiet. The moon slowly crosses the sky. Hours pass. The village remains peaceful. Then the first signs of morning begin to appear. The darkness softens. The stars grow slightly dimmer. The eastern horizon develops a pale glow. Another day approaches. The cycle continues. It is a cycle that seems as old as the river itself. A cycle of waking, working, resting, and waking once more. Birds begin calling from the reeds. The sound is gentle. A reminder that night is ending. A young boy opens his eyes. For a moment he lies still, listening. The familiar sounds are beginning. Footsteps outside. The movement of family members. A donkey somewhere in the village. The world is waking. The boy sits up slowly. The air remains cool. The room feels comfortable. These moments before sunrise are often the most peaceful of the entire day. The work has not begun. The heat has not arrived. Responsibilities have not yet gathered around him. There is only stillness. Only possibility. Then, little by little, the day begins. Outside, the first sunlight touches the Nile. The river glows softly. Mist drifts above the water. Palm trees cast long shadows. The village emerges from darkness. Smoke begins rising from ovens. The smell of bread spreads through narrow streets. The scent feels comforting. Familiar. Many people wake to that smell every morning of their lives. A young girl helps prepare the day's first meal. She moves confidently now. Years of observation have become skill. The tasks no longer feel new. They no longer require careful thought. Her hands know what to do. This is true for many young people. The routines of life settle deeply into the body. Knowledge becomes instinct. Instinct becomes habit. Habit becomes identity. Nearby, her mother works alongside her. There is little need for conversation. Both know the routine. Both understand what comes next. Many lessons have already been taught. Not through speeches. Not through instructions. Through years spent together. Through countless mornings exactly like this one. The village grows busier as sunlight spreads across the valley. Farmers move toward fields. Fishermen prepare boats. Craftsmen enter workshops. Animals move through dusty roads. The sounds of daily life slowly fill the air. A young farm worker walks beside his father. The path is familiar. The fields are familiar. Even the smells are familiar. Damp soil. River water. Growing crops. These things have surrounded him since childhood. The father points toward a section of land needing attention. The son nods. No lengthy explanation is necessary. The work itself teaches. Every season adds another layer of understanding. Every harvest adds another layer of experience. The young worker bends toward the soil. His hands move automatically. The motions have become natural. What once required instruction now requires only practice. This is how many ancient lives unfold. Not through sudden change, but through gradual accumulation. Thousands of ordinary moments slowly shape a person. The sun climbs higher. The morning coolness begins to fade. Shadows shorten. Heat spreads across the land. The work continues. Across the village, a young apprentice enters a crowded workshop. The smell of wood fills the room. Dust drifts through shafts of sunlight. Tools rest against walls. Experienced craftsmen are already working. The apprentice takes his place among them. He is still learning. Still watching. Still making mistakes. Yet he feels himself improving. The progress is slow. Almost invisible. But it is there. A smoother movement. A better result. A task completed more quickly than before. These small improvements matter. They offer encouragement. They offer hope. Many young people measure success this way. Not by dramatic achievements, but by steady growth. By becoming slightly more capable than yesterday. The workshop grows warmer as the morning advances. Sweat appears on foreheads. The sounds of tools fill the room. Outside, merchants call from the marketplace. Donkeys carry goods through narrow streets. The village feels alive. Busy. Purposeful. Yet beneath all this activity lies a sense of continuity. People know their roles. They know their responsibilities. They know where they belong. For many young people, belonging comes long before choosing. Identity is often inherited. A family profession. A family responsibility. A family place within the community. The future begins taking shape early. Sometimes so early that it feels natural. As natural as the river. As natural as the changing seasons. as natural as sunrise. The day grows hotter. The sunlight becomes intense. The roads become dusty. Workers slow their pace whenever possible. Shade becomes precious. A young servant carries a heavy jar across a courtyard. His shoulders ache. The clay feels warm beneath his hands. He focuses on the task. One step. Then another. Then another. The work is repetitive. Yet repetition is everywhere. Ancient life is built from repeated actions. The same bread baked each morning. The same paths walked each day. The same fields tended year after year. The repetition can feel limiting. Yet it also creates stability. People know what to expect. They know what tomorrow will likely bring. In uncertain times, that knowledge can feel comforting. As afternoon settles over the valley, the heat becomes heavy. The air shimmers. Animals rest beneath trees. Workers seek shelter whenever possible. A young fisherman sits near the riverbank repairing a net. The work requires patience. Every knot matters. Every section must be checked. The fisherman works slowly. Carefully. Beside him sits his son. Watching. Learning. The lesson unfolds without formal instruction. The son observes. The father demonstrates. Knowledge passes quietly between generations. This scene has happened thousands of times. A parent teaching a child. A child preparing for adulthood. A future taking shape before anyone speaks of it directly. The Nile sparkles beside them. Boats move lazily across the water. A breeze drifts in from the river. For a few moments, the world feels calm. The work continues. Yet the atmosphere remains peaceful. As the afternoon begins fading into evening, relief spreads across the village. The sunlight softens. Long shadows return. The worst heat of the day disappears. Workers begin heading home. Dust rises beneath sandals. Voices grow more cheerful. The smell of cooking appears once more. A young girl carries a basket through a narrow street. Neighbors greet one another. Children laugh nearby. The atmosphere feels lighter. The responsibilities of the day are nearly finished. Soon families gather around evening meals. Stories are shared. Advice is offered. News travels from one household to another. A young boy sits beside his grandfather. The older man speaks softly about seasons long past. About floods. Harvests. Memories from his own youth. The boy listens carefully. The stories feel important. Not because they contain great adventures. Because they connect him to those who came before. To family. To tradition. To a world larger than himself. The sky turns gold. Then orange. Then deep blue. The Nile reflects every color. Birds settle into the reeds. Boats return to shore. The village grows quiet. Night arrives gently. Families prepare for sleep. Reed mats are spread across floors. Oil lamps flicker softly. The sounds of conversation slowly fade. One by one. A young worker closes his eyes. His body feels tired. His hands feel rough. His mind feels calm. Outside, the river continues flowing through the darkness. The same river his parents knew. The same river his grandparents knew. The same river that has watched countless young lives unfold beside its banks. And beneath the vast canopy of stars, countless young people drift once more into sleep, carrying familiar hopes, familiar duties, and familiar dreams into another peaceful Egyptian night, while the Nile moves quietly onward through the endless darkness. And now, at last, the long day is over. The Nile continues its quiet journey through the darkness. Its waters glide beneath the stars just as they did for countless generations before. The river asks for nothing. It simply flows, carrying moonlight upon its surface and whispering softly to the reeds along its banks. The villages have fallen silent. The ovens have cooled. The workshops are empty. The fields rest beneath the night sky. The dusty roads that were busy only hours ago now lie still and peaceful. Across the valley, families sleep inside their mud-brick homes. Farmers rest their tired hands. Fishermen dream beside the river they know so well. Apprentices sleep after long days of learning. Children drift through quiet dreams beneath woven blankets. The expectations of the day have finally loosened their grip. The duties can wait until morning. The work can wait until sunrise. For now, there is only rest. Only stillness. Only the gentle rhythm of breathing and the distant sound of water moving through the night. And perhaps that is what so many young people long ago cherished most. Not great riches. Not great power. Not grand adventures. But simple moments of peace. A cool breeze after a hot day. A warm loaf of bread shared with family. A quiet conversation beneath the evening sky. A place to rest at night. A feeling of belonging beside the river that had always been there. The generations passed. Children became adults. Adults became elders. New families filled old homes. New voices echoed through familiar streets. Yet the Nile remained. Patient. Steady. Endless. The river watched countless lives begin and end. Countless hopes appear and fade. Countless mornings arrive and countless evenings settle over the valley. And now, as the stars shine high above ancient Egypt one final time tonight, the river continues its timeless journey beneath the moon. The reeds sway softly. The palm trees whisper in the breeze. The desert sleeps beyond the fertile banks. The night grows deeper, quieter, stiller. The sounds of the world drift farther away. The water flows. The stars glow. The ancient valley rests. And beside the peaceful Nile, beneath a sky filled with gentle light, history slowly fades into silence. The river keeps flowing. The stars keep shining. And the night carries everything softly into sleep.